Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is yet another sad day in the world of professional wrestling. Of course, this afternoon we lost one of the greatest of all time in Roddy Piper. He died, fortunately, due to natural causes. He didn't suffer or anything. He didn't have anything that made him suffer and didn't feel anything. He fortunately passed away in his sleep, but it still sucks very much. You know, Roddy Piper is 61 years old, which is still a very young age, especially to die at. It's terrible. You know, it's something completely unexpected, especially after what just happened last month with Dusty Rhodes passing away. I think people are still grieving and trying to, digest that, and for this to happen just right after that, it's just really heartbreaking, really hits the heart, and it's terrible. You know, it's very unfortunate. Roddy Piper being one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, to see him go, it's one of those things where it's gonna take a long time to digest and make it feel real. And Roddy Piper was the pinnacle of talking on the mic. When you thought of a heel, you thought of Roddy Piper from the get-go, and Roddy Piper really was the person that solidified what being a heel was. And to see him go is very unfortunate. The impact Roddy Piper had in professional wrestling is like no other. I know a lot of people like to give Hulk Hogan the credit for putting wrestling on the map, but let's be honest, Piper had just as much as an impact putting wrestling on the map as Hogan did, because that was the feud that put wrestling on the map, was Hogan and Piper. All the things Piper was doing that gained all the media attention, and all the, outsiders, the celebrities getting with Hogan, to go against Piper is what set the bar and put wrestling on the map, in my opinion. So Piper deserves just as much credit as Hogan does for putting wrestling on the map. But it's extremely unfortunate to see Roddy Piper die. It truly sucks. It's just one of those things that this is what makes being a wrestling fan hard. Times like this is when it's like, man, it's just because you develop, you get attached to these characters and these people, and when they go, it doesn't seem real. Knowing that you'll never see their presence again, you'll never see them again, hear from them again, it's just all deeply saddening, and it's terrible, and it's very unfortunate, and I hope he rests in peace. He went peacefully, so he's gonna rest in peace. So Roddy Piper, you're gonna be missed, man. This video is dedicated to you. I hope you're resting in peace, and we're gonna miss you. There'll never be another Roddy Piper. I know there's guys that have been compared to Piper, but reality of it is we'll never get another person like him. Him being one of the meanest son of bitches we'll ever see on television, but probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your entire life. So, rest in peace, Roddy Piper. You'll be missed, man. But let's get into his DVD set here. Of course, here is a cover of his DVD. You got a picture of Roddy Piper right there, him pointing at Hogan. Born to Controversy, the Roddy Piper story. Here's what it'll look like on the spine when you put it on your DVD shelf. And here's the back right there. You got a picture of him, Hogan, and Vince McMahon. Here's a little description, bio thing. If you want to pause and read it, you can go ahead and do that. I'm not going to read it to save some time. So there's that. You open it up. They continued the whole film strip thing right here. As you see, you got some more pictures of Piper. I really like with the pictures too. It seems like they use actual photo paper for the pictures, because you can actually feel it, like the glossiness. So that's pretty cool. Him and Macho Man right there. It's pretty cool. And then here's the other side with the film strips. And then you open this bad boy up. Of course, you have disc 1 right there, which is the story. Disc 2, which is the fights. And disc 3, which is the pit. And of course, here is the little flap right here, the insert panel. And here is the insert with the chapters from disc 1, the documentary, or the story as they portray it. And here's more of the chapters, as well as the extra stories and whatnot. Of course, here's some more stories, as well as the matches on disc 1. Sorry for the glare, I'm trying to get rid of it. And those matches on disc 1. Here's the matches on disc 2. And of course, here are the Piper's Pit. I always call it the Piper Pits for some reason. But the Piper's Pit episodes on here, or the segments on here, I should say. And here it is. So you have a lot of content on this DVD set, of course, as back then when they actually tried and put as much content as possible on these sets. That's what I liked back then, what they did with these sets. They actually tried and put as much as possible. They actually tried to fill up the entire set. So that's one thing I miss about their DVD sets back then. They actually tried. And well, now, where with nowadays, they just throw whatever on there and not really care how much is on it. They just throw it out because they know people will buy it regardless. But yeah, this DVD set overall it's awesome. It's an awesome set. You know, like I said, you have all the best stuff on there. You have his best matches, which aren't many, no offense, the Roddy Piper. You have, you know, his Piper's Pit on there, a lot of segments on there, and you have his story. So you pretty much have all you can ask for when it comes to Roddy Piper. The documentary is extremely well. There's not a dull moment on there. There isn't a moment where it's just like, oh, can this be over with already? It's just non-stop entertainment, and I enjoyed every second of it and absolutely loved it. You know, one's going to argue this is one of the most underrated documentaries of all time because, you know, a lot of people don't talk about it. It's on the WWE Network in case you want to watch it. You don't have the DVD set, you can just go on the network and watch it if you have the network. But I'd recommend getting the DVD set as well, though, because like I said, you have all, you know, the matches, and then you have all these segments on Piper's Pit. So I definitely recommend getting the DVD set if you can. But the documentary opens up, you know, talking about him in his early life, about him growing up in Canada, moving a lot, and by the age of 15, that's when he moved out on his own and became homeless for a little bit before, you know, he got into wrestling. You know, he had his own pipe bag band, and then he was discovered in the wrestling, and then he went from there. He was pretty much screwing around with a lot, traveling with a bunch of people, because, you know, back then it was harder to accept people in the wrestling, so he was screwed around with a lot by a lot of guys until he was 21 when, you know, he discovered Gene LaBelle, and Gene LaBelle really took him under his wing and really, you know, showed him, you know, the ways, how things go. Talked about the territories he worked, and he talked about, you know, him, when he went to Portland, he was loyal to Portland, you know, because Vince McMahon Sr. wanted him at the time, but he stayed loyal to Portland instead of going to the WWE. Talked about his time in the NWA, you know, he went there, and his, you know, what really kickstarted him was his feud with Greg Valentine, that amazingly brutal dog collar match they had at Starrcade 1983 was what really put him on the map, and that's what gained people's interest in him. And, you know, they talked about a little bit about him and Flair, about their similarities, as in, you know, them talking and whatnot. So they talked about his time in the NWA. Then he talked about how he got brought into the WWE by Vince McMahon. Pretty much, you know, they knew his strongest thing was his talking. So they gave him, of course, Piper's Pit. They gave him to pretty much, you know, just talk, you know, to progress not only himself, but the people with him, too. Because, you know, they put people on there that couldn't talk very well. He progressed their characters, and sometimes he'd progress feuds. Because, you know, more than, you know, two guys feuding at once would be on there, and he'd progress their feud. And, you know, they really went into great detail with Piper's Pit. They really talked about that for a while. They really went into great detail, so really good job with Piper's Pit. You know, talked about, of course, with the Jimmy Snuka thing, how a lot of things just were in the heat of the moment with Piper's Pit. So they got a lot of great information about Piper's Pit. Talked about his friendship with Bob Orton, how they pretty much got thrown together and they became pretty good friends out of it, which was just, you know, not every day you just throw two guys together and they instantly become good friends and have good chemistry on TV as well. So that was really good to hear. Talked about him being pretty much the ultimate heel, him just doing outrageous things and controversial things. You know, the whole thing with Cyndi Lauper, how he hit Captain Lou Albano with the record, and then, you know, kicked Cyndi Lauper, and then, you know, that's what kickstarted the whole Hulk Hogan Roddy Piper feud, which led to their match at, you know, War to settle the score, which led to their WrestleMania 1 main event match with Hogan and Mr. T versus Piper and Paul Orndorff. Talked about that, and of course that match is what led to the Roddy Piper Mr. T feud, which was absolutely incredible due to the fact that they both legitimately didn't like each other. So the fact that it was real added to it. You know, realism always adds to a feud. That's what makes it great, and that's why their feud was really good. And they talked about that, of course, the WrestleMania 2 match, and then they got into the you know, a year going forward with his what was supposed to be his retirement match against Adrian Adonis. WrestleMania 3, you know, Piper looked at the crowd and saw everything, just like, wow, this is what I'm leaving. You know, he didn't want to leave that. So he left the wrestling for a little bit, you know, did some acting, you know, spent time with his family. And then he just did, you know, sporadic appearances, like at WrestleMania 5, he did the Piper's Pit with Robert Downey Jr., that whole smoking thing, that was pretty entertaining. Then he did WrestleMania 6, with Bad News Brown, of course, the whole controversial thing where he painted half himself black, and they weren't really aware, really understanding why he did that, but he did it. And then, of course, WrestleMania 8, before that, Royal Rumble 2000, or for 2000, Royal Rumble 1992, where he won the Intercontinental title from the Mountie and defended the title against Bret Hart, WrestleMania 8. Piper's by far best match, in my opinion. They really put that match over in the documentary, saying how, his wrestling ability was questionable, but if you watch that match, all your questions are pretty much, out the window about what he can do in the ring. And from there on, they talked about, of course, his WrestleMania 10 appearance when he special guest refereed the Yokozuna Brett match. Talked about that. Then he talked about his horrible feud with Jerry the King Lawler and their horrible match they had at King of the Ring 94, which was just, that was brutal. They talked about how WrestleMania 12 he was supposed to go against O.J. Simpson. That was the idea, but they decided that was a bad idea, so they ended up going with him and Goldust instead, they had an awesome brawl. I absolutely loved that brawl they had at WrestleMania 12. I thought that was good stuff. So they talked about that. They talked about him going to WCW pretty much just for the money, and how he went there and immediately got bagged on from guys like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, which led to his firing down the line, and he ended up suing WCW. And of course, he went for WCW for the money, but then of course, as most people, like him and Warrior that go to WCW, they pretty much hate it and think it's the worst thing they could have done. Talked about that. They talked about him coming back to WWE in 2003 at WrestleMania 19 during the Hogan-Vince match. And then he talked about, of course, him doing the HBO thing in 2005 where he pretty much blamed the promoters for wrestlers' deaths because of the way they worked them and whatnot. And then they ended up, pretty much ended it up with Piper going into the Hall of Fame. So you pretty much get his entire complete career in this documentary. They talked about from the beginning to the end. What more can you ask for in this set? I think like I said, this is a great documentary. I definitely think they really grabbed what they needed for this, and they really went in depth with a lot of things too. Like I said, the Piper's Pit, they really went in depth with that, and a few other things they went really in depth into as well. So this is a great documentary overall. Definitely recommend watching it. Get this set too if you can. If you can find this DVD set, I got it at Walmart for $5. So this is really, you can get it all online for $5 too. I'm pretty sure. Brand new. Well, I don't know about now, but you can get this pretty cheap, and it's really well worth it. Like I said, the matches on there. You have a few great matches. The Piper's Pit segments you have. It's a complete Roddy Piper collection, in my opinion, and it's a must-have. But if you don't have this set, but you have the network, it's on the network. The documentary is, so you can watch it there if you'd like. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry if I seem like I try to rush through this. It's still kind of emotional to talk about him still, so it's kind of hard to talk and not really want to stumble up on my words or kind of break down a little bit. So sorry if I seem like I kind of just flew by this video if I'm talking really fast. Like I said, I'm just honestly trying to wrap this up because it's kind of still a touchy subject for me to see him go. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Rest in peace, Roddy Piper. You'll be terribly missed, and hope you're wrestling well now. And thank you for everything you contribute in the world of professional wrestling. We'll never be able to repay you back, but we're just people are, I'm pretty sure I speak on behalf of everyone, are just grateful that you were in the world of professional wrestling and did wrestle. So thank you for personifying what a heel should be, and just thank you for all your contributions to wrestling. And until then, guys, I'll see you guys next time.